Nice.
Hi, everybody. Weekly
Hello.
Wednesday.
Hey.
Woo.
Ooh, ooh.
Let's throw this in the Discord, Jason, if you have a
I thought you
chance.
already did.
No, it's just,
Oh, I was like running to add it into the Discord, and when I saw your message come through, I was like, "Oh, Pearson grabbed it." Like, sweet, thank God. But I didn't read your. I just saw Weekly Wednesdays. So I figured, let me grab the share URL. And as we do this, hello to everybody watching this, not live. You matter too. Thank you so much for all those views. It's so cool that you guys, watch that afterwards.
no, it's awesome. I wonder, I didn't look last week after the fact. Were there any major comments from people on last week's after?
No, but the coolest thing that I had was yesterday I spoke to a very cool gentleman who discovered us through. He was on the very first Weekly Wednesday, and he had never used JellyPod, and he had just been watching, and still had never used JellyPod, and then signed up over the last week, and then we hopped on a call yesterday. So it's cool. He's like, I love what you guys are doing. I love, he knew so much about us. He was like, yeah, I love that it was just the two of you guys, and then you guys brought in Bilal, and like, I'd love to see the team growing. And I'm like, that's so funny. It's like,
I love that, and welcome to the family. I'm curious though, like why, I'm curious like if there are people who are just lurking, who haven't like jumped in, and what we can do to help you guys. Like is it just not enough time, or there's some other objection? So let us know.
totally. I think some people are like looking to take the leap, and they're like, what do I create?
Right,
Like I've
that's
got
fair.
lots of thoughts. Like I'm a complex person with lots of dimensions. What's the thing that I'm going to, dedicate, a JellyPod subscription to?
Yeah.
Uh,
Oh yeah, and I think it's a good time to. We actually do have a free tool. It's called the podcast generator, where you can just go, no subscription required. It's free. Just go. You can put a prompt in, and it'll give you kind of a brief sense of what a podcast would look like. It'll give you an outline with hosts, and you can even listen to a preview real quickly. And that's a quick way to test out a bunch of ideas. And when you're ready, you can jump in. And then we have 1,000 free credits as well when you sign up. So it'll be a while
Fantastic
before
plug.
you need a credit card.
I love that. And there's a cover art generator, which is super cool, and that a
Oh
lot of
yeah,
people use.
I love the
And
cover
then,
art. It looks so cool.
yeah,
Yeah.
big shout out to Pearson. Like, made a magical thing that like now I use in on episodes as well. Like, I make sure that every episode that I make now has a special thumbnail, so I'll use the art generator to like bring over stuff. So if anybody out there is looking for custom episode art for every episode, try it out. It's in the footer of our homepage. Both of those things that we just mentioned.
I know it's kind of frustrating. I mean, like people are like, oh, I generate my podcast cover art, and now I'm in my episode, and I want to generate that piece of artwork too, but it's not built in. But I can do it by like going to your homepage. So sorry, we'll figure out a way to make that all a little bit more clean, where you can just because right now in the top left hand corner where you have like your little tiny little square where you can upload an episode image, people might not even realize you could do that.
Yeah, that's true. Right.
But right now you could drag and drop or click on it and you can upload a file. But maybe makes more sense to be like, oh, you click on the episode image uploader, and rather than opening up like the native computer like file selector, it could open up like a drag box type thing where you can drag or click to upload. Or on the right hand side, it's like generate image.
Yeah. No, that's a good call. I've actually wondered that, like, how important is having an episode image? Because on Spotify and stuff, it's mostly the podcast cover art that takes up. But in YouTube, obviously, if you publish, the thumbnail matters. So maybe that's where it's more important. So I'm curious, like, how people invest resources into an episode image or a template as well for their
Totally.
podcast.
That's a good call out, especially with the YouTube thing, because our YouTube distribution right now is through RSS feed. So YouTube took over Google Podcasts. So like in the past, there was an app called Google Podcasts that competed with Apple Podcasts. And it was purely a RSS feed audio podcast type thing that you can listen to podcasts. And then YouTube took over and they just merge that into YouTube. But if you distribute your podcast via RSS feed to YouTube, they don't allow you to put like a video there. It's just a audio with your episode or your podcast cover art. So really what most people are doing when they're distributing to YouTube are they're taking the audiogram that they've generated, they're downloading it and then uploading it directly to the YouTube account in
So
a
what?
podcast series.
No, that's interesting. Oh, so what shows up? Because video, I mean, YouTube is a video platform, but if it's just audio, what is it, like a blank screen? Like what is the actual video?
A thumbnail, just thumbnail and the name of the show.
But what is the thumb? Is it our thumbnail, or is it they randomly generate that? Or oh no, is it the podcast thumbnail?
Yeah.
Interesting.
So it's kind of like they blended like this pure audio podcast thing into YouTube without just it would become much harder. I could see this like harder for YouTube to consume a video file through an RSS feed because YouTube has their own distribution and streaming. Like it's much easier to just pull down a MP3 and then push that like RSS to all podcasters than like an upload of a new video file, and then you publish it, and then you have all the traditional distributing. So so I guess like how are things, everyone? Like Bilal, this is a third weekly Wednesday, right?
I guess, yeah. Time flies. It's crazy. No, things are good. Excited. We launched. We added scheduling in. I saw Jason made a video about it already. Like it was nicely done. It showed all the features. So now you can go and schedule out an episode. And start publishing now. And right now, when you do that, it'll just show up as a tab in the list. But I think, and Pearson had this idea. I think I like it. We're gonna hopefully have a calendar view of that as well, hopefully soon. So that'll be nice if you want to schedule out maybe a month's worth of podcasts or something. So.
Yeah, I'm excited about that too, because just even though it's not that difficult and not like that crazy thing, and maybe it won't necessarily move the needle for everybody, but just to kind of have a centralized view of if you're a creator who has 5 different podcasts, rather than clicking in and seeing like, oh, this podcast is going out on Monday, this other episode's going out on Wednesday, and you just kind of want to have a centralized view of like, hey, this is my content calendar, and I want to publish episode 5 of my podcast, of this podcast on Monday, and you could just have like a centralized view of when everything's going out and when things have gone out in the past.
For sure. It looks pretty cool.
Yeah, I was definitely surprised. Like I've definitely experienced. I've been talking to a lot of customers over the last few days, and it was a surprisingly common use case where people would come in maybe on a yearly plan where they got all their credits up front, and they made like 7, 8 episodes all in draft status, and and with the idea of coming, when they were ready and they were done, then they were going to go out and start to publish them in some cadence. So now it's a few people over the last week are coming back to start to do the first episode of like 7 that they made. And then all of a sudden, like, oh, cool, scheduling. Like that's awesome. So it's funny to see the use cases. I would have never thought that people were doing like a repository of draft episodes that no one had seen for a month.
Right. Yeah. And then there's
and I didn't even think about that, but like Pearson, like you mentioned about multiple podcasts. Because I feel like I'm assuming that a lot of people just focus on one podcast, but the cool thing about JellyPod is you can literally have different type versions of podcasts. You can have a morning one, and then you can. And I think in those cases, organization becomes really important because you don't want to make sure you're on track and this thing goes out this time and this day, etc. So I think that is kind of powerful. And actually, that's something now you can do that only in these kind of platforms like JellyPod, because otherwise it's like a nightmare to figure out.
Totally. And what's interesting too is that like you can do unlimited podcasts, and each podcast has its own RSS feed, has its own website, and like there's no cap. Even on free plan, you could just create a bunch of podcast websites, and only when you're generating the audio for those episodes is when the credits are used up. But I think that was pretty cool. It's like there's no limits really, except for if you're creating more, and then awesome. If you're using it more, like it scales, but hopefully it provides enough features for everybody. Without having like these one-off, like, oh, upgrade for X things.
Yeah.
But yeah, and I think so. Scheduling's out. That's awesome. That was a Bilal thing. So for everyone out there watching, Bilal ripped that out this past week. Awesome. And then the other big things were like these partial audio regens.
Yeah, huge, and that's a person thing. I mean, it's really like it took a lot of effort, I think, and bug fixes and stuff, but it's looking really great.
Yeah, it was a tough one. So just to give context for everybody, I know I've mentioned this in the past weekly Wednesdays, but if you're new here, this is something I probably over the last 2, maybe 3 weeks I've been working on. The biggest problem I think people were having with the creation experience was that they might have their transcript perfect, they made the edits, they generate the audio, and maybe one of the words just wasn't pronounced correctly, or after hearing the audio generated, you needed to make some more edits to the transcript. The problem in the previous generation was that if you make a change to your transcript, you essentially had to regenerate the entire episode, which took some time. It was long to generate that audio. It was expensive as well, and also could introduce issues in other places where there may not have been issues previously. So, for example, if you have a podcast and everything's perfect except for like one sentence, you make one edit, you regenerate the audio. Now that's perfect, but then something else has happened somewhere else. And that was a frustrating experience. So today we kind of went back to the drawing board and released something the last few days that allows you to selectively generate each speech block individually. So, the first thing that you need to do is generate all the audio after you make your edits. So you generate the whole thing. But afterwards, then each block individually, if you hover over it, you can regenerate. There's a little button that shows up on hover. That's like a little spinny circle icon, like a loading icon. If you click that, you'll regenerate just that block itself, and it'll just consume credits for that little block that you made edits to. And also, we're tracking now changes. So if you generated all your audio and you have a little block that you made one little word, it will show up as orange. That like, hey, like you made a change to this text, but the audio still has your old text and your old audio. So it will just notify you like, hey, like you made a change here, but you haven't regenerated your audio yet. Regenerate audio to make sure it's consistent with your podcast.
Yeah, no, I love that. Those kind of details are, just makes the UX so much slicker. And then also, I guess we haven't announced about Easter egg because you, as part of that launch, you also added in the transitions music files you can drag and drop too, right? That's also in there now.
You're right. That was
a massive Easter egg. It's like a quiet feature.
Yeah.
I think we'll probably make a blog post. I think this is definitely 100% worth it to go onto the feature product announcements updates page. But so like you can drag. So previously we had intro and outro music where you click that little button, you upload a file, and you get intro or outro music. Now you can still do that, but now you can drag and drop your audio file to anywhere in your episode between any speech block, and it'll just get stitched there automatically, and it will be it'll just kind of work. So
By the way, welcome back, Thomas. We love that you're back. No, it's such a cool feature, and I can imagine we're gonna take this and add our own, probably give you a library of transition and stuff once we this matures, and so you can like easy add those quick pauses and sounds and stuff that make it very professional. So lots of I love this feature.
And I know, Jason, you were talking to a bunch of people in the chat and that have kind of asked this, like, what were some of those use cases that people were trying to upload their own external audio to JellyPod? Like, what is something that you've seen?
Yeah, I think biggest things were like sound effects, bigger like big recordings, and then almost like music breaks. So like a music break would be like a little like a Zen recording to take like a meditation break, or like, you know, it's some sort of mindfulness or health and wellness podcast, and they just want you to take a second, or maybe, you know, it's a religious podcast, and it's like take a moment to pray or something. Sound effects, of course, you know, something quick, just like a, you know, cha-ching or whatever. And then interestingly, people are doing these like hybrid podcasts where there's like some of it's recorded by you, and some of it's like a clone of you who's like the AI version of you, and they want to like stitch those together. So they'll be talking for a while, and then they'll get a response from their AI clone in a sort of in this hybrid way. So super cool. And I think one thing that I just wanted to shout to connect these two features together is, you know, there's a speech block, right? You can regenerate it, and it's awesome. But what you can also do is you can take speech blocks and break them apart by finding, you know, a section that you want, pressing enter, maybe pressing enter again. So say you have one section with like 3 sentences, you could break them up into 3 sentences and then regenerate the middle one, for example, in a way, or kind of. And the idea there is you can actually begin to like workshop this inflection, and then you can work in these little like sound effects. So it's this cool ability to really get precise with the audio, right? You have a vision for a particular moment or set of seconds. You can do some really cool things.
Yeah, the finer and control. I'd also add to the transition. I feel like ads would be a great, like, imagine you have a 30-second, like, you know, the quick pause, and here's from a sponsor. I mean, you can now just have that video because that never changes, right? In the audio, and you can just add that in different times easily now. So great way to, you know, increase the seamlessness of your partnerships, you know, if you're doing that. So
Right.
yeah,
That makes sense.
yeah.
And I know, like, too, it's like, oh, sorry, here, go ahead. You go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was going to mention, because like I thought of this something the other day. Like, I know people are using JellyPod to do like trainings and sort of like employee manual type things, and you could just stitch in like a 30-second clip of your CEO saying something like, "Hey, welcome to the team. It's great to be here."
Absolutely.
You know, it's you could just kind of, possibilities are pretty cool.
Yeah, no, so for sure. This definitely is going to take up a notch. It's almost like a B-roll footage equivalent of, you know, where you can just add other videos, audio, media files, etc. But yeah, I mean, there's so many features. And speaking of features and stuff, I think a really cool video that Jason did, like, was the Notebook LM versus JellyPod video, which I definitely recommend you guys check out. It's on our YouTube channel. You know, I think it's past 1,000 views now. I mean, so, and it was like Jason spent a lot of time on this, and it's like a very high quality video. It's like 20 minutes of, and he breaks down different features that JellyPod versus Notebook LM have. And, you know, I think it did a great job. So, yeah, I mean, I'll let Jason speak to it, but I really like that video. And I know, and I was telling Jason that I love how many like different camera angles and stuff like he's doing. Editing is really hard. So, you know, he's dedicated to the craft for sure.
Yeah, hired a bunch of interns to hold cameras at various angles.
Green screen, blue screens, everything.
Yeah, everything. A score graphic. But yeah, no, I mean, if people have other videos that they're, you know, feel free to comment and engage on the videos that are made to say, hey, make more of this, make less of this. But I really wanted to give a fair shake to Notebook LM and really just make it clear when you'd use one and when you'd use the other. Because in my opinion, both tools are very different and are both great in their own way.
Yeah,
totally. No, absolutely. Yeah, that video was great. That was awesome. Also, I know this is kind of coming back just because it's kind of an Easter egg in things that we released, but people have asked for it. A lot of times people have messaged in to support about how certain blocks of audio kind of sound, the volume levels are different. So if you have 2 different hosts, sometimes a host is just louder, just like people. Some people are just louder than others. So we kind of did some processing to make sure that all of the volume levels across all of your hosts are essentially the same. So it sounds like it's not super loud and one person super quiet, and also with your external audio too. So if you drag something in externally, like some other MP3 file that you've recorded elsewhere, that will get adjusted so that it's not overly loud or overly quiet compared to the rest of your audio. So just if you've messaged us saying, hey, this is super quiet or this is super loud, that shouldn't be an issue anymore. So just wanted to call that out also.
Yeah. No,
Very
that
cool.
definitely is very cool.
I wanted to shout out a couple of interesting, pretty cool use cases that we've unearthed. So we're every week we're kind of surprised by the way people are using it. So one super cool thing that I recently discovered was people cloning old voices of themselves. So we've always thought about it like, you want to clone your own voice today and continue that in the future. But sometimes you might have sounded differently in the past, right? You might be, in your 50s and you sounded different in your 20s or what have you. So if you've got that recording, people are doing cool things where they're cloning different voices, different eras of themselves to, create sort of these like back in time clones. But to some people are like, I still think of myself as like years ago, right? That's me in my head. And that's for a lot of people, that seems to be the case. So just we wanted to give that shout, like some cool nostalgic content, let's say if you've had an audience or maybe even for your family, to show your kids how you sounded way back when and teach them about, tell them a story in that voice or something.
Yeah, no, I love that use case. And when you mentioned about that particular user, it was like so heartwarming. And it actually reminded me of, I know multiple, there's a lot of like interest in where people will want to talk to their grandparents or something and get their life story. And they'll use like ChatGPT or whatever to interview them. So they have that memory. And I wonder like, and I never thought about it, but it just clicked when you mentioned that, like you can have the voice is also a memory. It's a core memory. And so you can have that voice and maybe take that and make podcasts for your kids or your grandkids and stuff and leave them, about, your life, etc. It could almost be this, family treasure that you pass on. So of that. So that could be an interesting use case where maybe older people are doing that, as like, this is my life's notebook, basically, right? I mean, it's in a podcast. So,
Totally. Yeah, you hear about that all. Yeah, people, kids will listen to the voicemails that their parents left because they're just looking for, a little bit of their voice again. And leaving behind not just the voice but the story to carry forward is that's a great shout.
Totally. No, that's awesome. I guess, was there anything that we wanted to share about like things that are upcoming? I know there's like some stuff I'm working on just to iron out the edges around certain issues that people are having. But was there anything that we wanted to share? I don't know.
I think we covered most of it, I guess. Any questions, for people in the comments or in the chat,
Yeah, especially if Bill
or
Franny are here. Hi, Bill and Franny. You don't have to speak up if you don't want to. If you're watching, hello, and thank you for watching. And if you are here and have a question, shoot it through.
Yeah, the regulars. I love it. It's so great.
The regulars.
Yeah.
And while we wait for people to come through, just what comes to mind is one comment, Brandon, an awesome user of JellyPod. And if you want to watch a video of his, you can go to our customer stories. He's the person who shouted out the love for the scheduling feature. But there's something that has really stuck with me, and that was the way that he was using JellyPod. Oh, there's Franny. Hey, Franny. And one thing that really stuck with me with Brandon is the way that he's co-creating podcasts with his kids to make car rides more fun. Yes, hi Mew, the motherland. It is working. We're seeing you come through there. But it really stuck with me that he's making these immersive, personalized podcasts with his kids. So that's something that I'm very interested to explore over the next week. So anybody who's watching, if you have kids, and probably between the ages of 3 and 10, there's a really cool thing that Brandon is doing, where he is co-creating some hosts. He's giving them this foundation of the kids' lives, and then he's teaching them something new every day, every week, what have you. So it can be a way to make their learning immersive. Instead of just the Brontosaurus, it's the Brontosaurus, but it's set amongst the kid with the kid's name and the kid's friends and everything.
Love that.
So now instead of putting on some, whatever car, parents will put on whatever song in the car to entertain their kids. So now you can do something that's a little bit more educational and, do something cool. Hey, Blake. Good to see you. Another
cool.
shout here in the chat. We love the chat. We're here for the chat.
Yeah. No, that's super, super cool. I know what's interesting is right now I just saw on YouTube, there's another live stream, a big one, much bigger AI company than us. It just has a live stream at 10 a.m. also. If you guys know OpenAI, they just decided to steal our weekly Wednesday live stream slot. So we'll have to. So ChatGPT's overshadowing us. But thanks for everyone that's here. I mean,
yeah, for sure.
Being there, we're way more fun.
Yeah. Exactly.
Jason has
they're like all scripted, and like you see them, they're just like, hello, and this is what we launched, right? But this is unscripted. You get from us, you get it from the heart, So
yeah, you get this bad virtual background. It's covering my clothes back there and my keyboard because I play piano. So everybody that doesn't know, I play piano. If you haven't seen it back there,
nice.
And it's Bilal has this comfy couch. That do you late night code there or?
I should, but it's like I made a mistake, a classic mistake, where I got the couch is actually 2 pieces because I wanted it easy to assemble. But now, like when you lie down, it kind of starts drifting apart. So it's very annoying. So I made a classic mistake doing that. But
gotcha.
I like a good couch, so a good comfy couch.
Totally. Ooh, that's a
auto translate.
Yeah, this is one General Rochambeau. Oh, Franny.
Whoops. I pressed.
Oh, sorry.
I think it's a bug on Restream. I'm pressing. There we go.
There we go. Yeah, so I think we may have mentioned this in the past. I'm not sure. But this is something that's definitely on our radar. It's pretty interesting because translation is a difficult thing. There's translation, there's like localization, there's these things that we want to consider and how we organize content when it comes to languages. The 2 major things are, one, if you have a podcast, do you want that single podcast to be in multiple languages? So you have like one episode's in Spanish, one episode's in English, all in one feed, versus like you want a podcast that's in the same thing in English and the same exact one in Spanish. 2 different websites, 2 different feeds on Spotify differently. So that's something that we're like discussing right now. What we think it'll be better for everybody, including people that don't know this feature exists, because maybe I was creating in English, my content's great, and then one day I'm like, oh, why not just auto translate it all to Spanish and help grow my audience over there? So there is, to answer your question, long story short here. There will be some way in the future to auto translate it, so the dialogue isn't completely different.
Yeah, I think the question for us is, and we've talked, is that there is a cultural context to every language, and so like the way you're phrasing it, it sounds like you don't want the content to change too much between languages. But we've also seen where people, the host backstories and the way they say certain things changes with the language, and so in order to be authentic with the language, you almost want that, a slight difference. So it's an interesting question. It really depends on, I guess we need to do more research and find out like what do people prefer from a user's perspective.
Totally. And if you're, I don't know if you're in our Discord, but we have like this feature requests, FAQ sort of page. If you just put it there and give us like kind of what you're thinking about, or you can message us directly. It helps us understand, because we get your information, like what you are expecting and what you want, and we kind of mix it with what other people are asking similarly. It helps us prioritize and make the best experience. So
totally. But the inner hacker in me should just, I always try to help people, figure it out in the moment if they can. The closest thing you can do right now is you can create the podcast, create the script, and then edit the podcast language, and then regenerate the script. So you'll have the same structure, the same outline, all that work, just the script will be different. But it'll follow a similar story arc, which might be enough. So if that's enough, you can hack that together. And if you message support, I'm happy to show you how.
Right.
Yeah. Or just have two separate, a Spanish version and English version of this podcast with the same hosts and stuff, and that's generate those separately.
You can just paste the
easier.
outline over too. Totally.
Yeah.
Right. Sweet. Well, cool. I mean, I know we're at the half hour. Next week we'll have a surprise for everybody, or maybe 2 weeks we'll have a surprise for everybody. So keep joining. Yeah, was there anything? If there's any other questions, let us know. But if not, I think we'll sign off.
Hi, John. Thanks for coming. Thanks for the smiley face.
Yeah. Franny made this call about driving kid-friendly podcast. Yeah, I love that. We're here for you guys.
Yeah, Franny's the best.
Yeah. Awesome.
Sweet. Well, hopefully no more comments come through after we close it off. But if they do, we'll try to answer them next week. And just shout out to everybody that's here on a Wednesday. Really appreciate you, everybody. It's awesome and keeps us driving forward. And it's great to see everybody here. So